Hi guys, how's it going? So I'm going to go through the hip joint now. This is video number 2. The last video that I went through was the ankle joint. So I would normally say to people to get through the ankle joint first and then move on to the hip joint in the same warm-up. Again, 20 to 25 minutes before you start, as recommended. If you can't do that amount of time, at least take some strong stretches from the ankle and the hip and put them together. If you don't do these, you're going to find yourself hurting yourself, complaining about niggles and wonder why they're there. And you have to look after yourself. If you run into a session on 6 o'clock, when it starts at 6 o'clock, then of course it's just not going to help you. You're not going to be able to get enough stretching in before you start. And so I'm going to go through about 4 movements on the hip just to kind of give you an understanding of what I would normally do, and I think is really useful for the majority of people. Again, I'm using this ball. You can do this against the wall, or you can do it on the ground. I tend to do it against the wall, but as it has become a lot easier, I've started to do it on the ground. But I'll start with the ball against the wall. So on your upper glute, so just up here, there's a little area there that normally is super tight for people and then causes injury on the lower back, keeps real tightness on the lower back. So with the ball, I'll normally get it against the wall and I will just lean against it in that area and just move in that section. If that's not hard, I'll go right around the hip, so I'll actually take it right round the hip there, right to the corner, and then all the way back round, right into the centre, and then you'll feel that area. So just back and forth there. Just rolling back and forth. Try and relax into this. Again, if you don't feel that, you have to learn to relax. Put more pressure against the wall. You can even also lift up the leg. You can play around with it depending on where you feel that pressure. If you feel that's not hard enough, again, you can drop down onto the ground, lie on top of the ball, and you'll definitely feel it then. Again, rolling on the ball. Same kind of understanding of when you are on the wall. So there. And that's going to really loosen up there. You can also run through any tightnesses, even on the muscles, on the area that might be tight for you. You can still run the ball up there, so just up your back, just kind of run through there. Try not to put it against the actual bone. You want to try and keep it along the muscles, and I usually just open up any kind of tightness there on that side. I suffer more so tightness on the left side of the hip, normally due to a tight left ankle, so that's why it's so important to open up your ankles before you do the hip, because I've actually got a tight hip because of a tight ankle, so you can see the use of doing that. So that's number 1 I would normally start with. Number 2, again focusing on posterior chain part of the hip, I would then focus on my glutes. I can then lie down here. I usually use this because I'm quite tight, so I can't normally get a good stretch when I'm lying on the ground. So I'll just usually use this, and then I'll just relax. Breathe into the stretch. Again, focusing on stretching the glutes. In this position here, what you'll find is you're stretching on the glute. It's really uncomfortable. Again, you can go deeper into it if you want. You can bring your head right down to your shin here. And you can do that as well if you want to increase that. Or if you feel like you've got more range of motion, you can do that on the ground. It's like pigeon pose, which is the first 2. So I'll do that both sides again. So moving on to my third area with this one. This is a bit of a funny one, but it's useful, this stretch. So I normally focus on keeping my feet flat, so inside to my feet flat, knees nice and wide, and I'll push back there. Okay, so what I'll normally do is I'll keep my feet flat, that side, and then as you can see here, my hands are flat on the ground here to start, and then I'll just push my knees further and further, wherever you can get to, and then lie. And try and relax into this stretch again. Slowly push back on the stretch. Again, that's going to really open up, and I would really focus on that. And even sitting in a position like this, to be honest, it's quite nice after a stretch just to kind of open up the thighs a little bit from there. So I've done, you know, my the ball for my upper glute. I've done the glute stretch on the pigeon pose with on the bench. Again, I'll open up my groins on this position. And then last one I would normally do is really focus on the hip flexors. I'll focus on just keeping my foot on the back there, and then stretching my hip flexors. I feel that instantly on the upper hip, just in here, so on the hip, sorry, and then I'll normally just lift up my arm on that same side, there. If you want to intensify the stretch, you can squeeze this glute. You squeeze that glute, that's going to push your hip forward, and it's going to really focus on that front edge of the hip. You're going to feel that stretch real deep in the hip here, okay? Again, I'd focus on around about 2 minutes per side, which is quite long, but I find that one really helpful to really keep the pressure, because a lot of people find the lower back sore, and then they do this one and they find it goes away. A warm up of the hip, and we can use either two things here. We'll use this band, or we can use this band. Normally this band's easier because you tie it, you just put it around here, and then all you need to do is do band walks, okay, here with this, but not everyone has one of these, so the kind of next best thing is this. I prefer this because it's more coordinated. So it's there, and tension stays on. I constantly see people mess this up, they're not doing it right. Your feet are forward, completely straight forward, and your back. The pressure on the band is constant. Okay, so keep that pressure on the band. Again, you probably want to do about 20 steps one way, 20 steps back, take a small rest, do 10 steps that way, 10 steps back, and that will give you a good glute activation before you start. So guys, as clients, I'm going to give you all this. You're going to be able to do this before the session. You know, as I said to you before, I've done those 4 mobility exercises with that one warm-up exercise. That should do you enough before you start the session. If you're not doing that before the session, you are going to get injured. There's not really much you can do about it. You know what I mean? Like, if you run into a session, over a period of time you're going to hurt yourself eventually. By doing the mobility and by doing the warm-up, the activation, what's going to happen is you're going to actually prime your body for the lifting, and you're going to stop any injuries coming around. So any question, as always, please let me know, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.